Good morning. I'd like to call to order the March 8th meeting of the Saline County Commission. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Shadwick?
Here.
Commissioner Sparks?
Here.
Commissioner Vidrickson?
Here.
Commissioner Weiss?
Here.
Commissioner White?
10-4.
Now we'd all stand for a flag salute and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's now time for the citizens' input portion of our meeting. Any citizens may speak on county government business, usually limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of prior minutes as presented, approval of tax roll adjustments as presented, approval of contracts and agreements as presented, approval of accounts payable as presented, approval of public forum agenda as presented. Any commissioners wish to address any of these items?
Move for approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Move into action items. Item number 1.
Entrepreneurship Week Proclamation with Mitch Robinson, Executive Director, Wasquito.
Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
How is everybody today?
Good.
Good. Well, it's my pleasure. We've kicked off our week last night with your own Commissioner Shadwick speaking with, we had himself, 2 other, we'll say, seasoned veterans, and then a young lady who has started her business in February. So that was our panel discussion, but talking about starting businesses, how you work through problems, but that was our first night. But let me start with our proclamation. That's the most important thing, why I'm here today. Whereas Saline County, Kansas recognizes and values the dedication and entrepreneurial spirit within our community and county, and whereas our nation and society in general have benefited greatly from everyday use of once radical breakthrough innovation developed and brought to market by entrepreneurs, and whereas entrepreneurial firms are a critical component to the spread of economic stability throughout the world, and whereas now more than ever, finding a path to success is defined by an individual's ability to turn their ideas into reality, and whereas Saline County, Kansas supports and joins in this local effort to help the region's small businesses do what they do best, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. And whereas Startup Salina, the Salina Community Economic Development Organization, the Salina Chamber of Commerce, Kansas State University Salina Aerospace and Technology Campus, Salina Area Technical College, the Temple, Kansas Wesleyan University, SCORE Wichita, and Network Kansas have planned activities throughout this week, to inspire, connect, inform, mentor, and engage the next generation of entrepreneurs. And whereas the week of events will accumulate with a live pitch competition on Friday, March 11th at 6 p.m. at the Temple. It's 336 South Santa Fe in Salina. 10 applications will have the opportunity to give a 5-minute business pitch and have a 5-minute Q&A session before a panel of judges. The top prizes include $8,000 for first place, $5,000 for second place, and $3,000 for third place. Bennington State Bank and JRI Hospitality are underwriting the prize money. Now, therefore, we, the Saline County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the week of March 7th through March 11th, 2022 as Entrepreneurial Week, which acknowledges and celebrates the achievements made by small businesses, both locally and nationally. Signed, James L. Weiss, Chairman.
Well, it sounds like a busy week.
It is a busy week, and I've given each of you all this blue sheet, and we've got a few more if anybody here would like to have them, but we did start yesterday at Saline Tech. Today, a little while ago, they started the Youth Entrepreneurial Challenge. This is currently, it's District 305 students have come up with ideas and will be presenting going through their process today. And by this afternoon, they'll select a winner who will receive $500. I think second place is $300 or $250, and then there's I think $100 third place. We're going to invite that winner to come and partake on our Friday night competition, give them a little opportunity to maybe get some big money, so to speak. And then Thursday, social media marketing workshop will be at the Chamber Annex just across the street. And that has been, social media is something that's been very popular with our workshops over the last couple of years before really the pandemic kind of hit us. And then the live pitch competition, again, that'll be at the Temple, as I stated earlier. And we're looking at, I think we've got about 7 judges thereabouts, and one of the Walker family members will be there, talk a little bit about Charlie. When we kicked around the idea of doing this competition, somebody suggested naming this after Charlie. I was not fortunate to ever meet him, but from the stories I've heard about him and the things he's done for people in the community, it's well deserved to be named in his honor. So we're looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll come out with some businesses that'll be growing here in the area. And we did open this up to our neighboring counties, so hopefully that money won't go outside the county, but we've got that chance. We'll never know. But as we know, we're a regional hub, and we need to support our other neighboring counties as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do, Mitch. It's
Yes.
just a quick question here. Is on this sheet here, it says on March 11th, the live pitch competition, but in your proclamation, it's on March 19th.
If you'd listen, I corrected that when I read it, but
Oh,
it should be the 11th.
Okay, all right. Oh,
It should be the 11th.
I was reading it as you was saying it,
Yeah.
so I must have read.
Yeah, we caught Robin, and Robin Van Atta, who works with me, my right hand, she caught that, so somewhere, I know we had looked at the 19th previously as a potential date, so I think it's just a typo
But I
on our
think she's
part.
your right and left, didn't she?
She is. She is.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
That's a good catch. Commissioner Shadwick, we appreciate you coming last night.
Nice to
spending-
be there.
Sharing some time with,
Happy
I
to
don't
do
know,
it.
there was probably 20
20.
or so, predominantly college students, which is.
Good questions.
Yep, good, a lot of good questions.
And Mitch, on any of this here, is this open to the public?
This is definitely open to the public. There is no fee.
Okay.
And, we encourage the 11 candidates. We've told them, bring your family, bring your friends. We want a big crowd to help support those folks, and hopefully they'll do that,
Thank you.
as well as anybody else that's interested.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move we declare the week of March 7th through the 11th as Entrepreneurial Week.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve March 7th through 11th as Entrepreneurial Week. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
Is she going to take, Mitch, is she going to take that photo with her left or her right hand?
I think she uses both hands.
Oh, okay.
All right, item number 2.
RFA 125-22, new jail dark fiber with Brad Bowers, Information Technology Director.
Morning, Brad.
Morning. Saline County released a request for proposal for the installation, termination, and maintenance agreement for a fiber optics cable project that connects the new Saline County Jail to the Saline County Data Center here at 300 West Ash. This fiber optic cable will be solely owned by the county, thus the term dark fiber. The fiber will be used by the sheriff's office to connect to the city-county building so that they can access applications and data required to do their jobs. Saline County received one bid for this project. Nextech was the lone bidder for this project. They proposed to install and terminate a 12-strand fiber between the new jail location at 800 East Pacific and 300 West Ash. The cost of the fiber installation and termination is $149,200, with the option to select a monthly maintenance fee of $143 per month for a 60-month term. The 5-year cost of the maintenance agreement is $8,580. We do have the option to include the cost of the 5-year maintenance plan in the total cost of the project. Doing so would make the total cost of the project $157,780. Our alternatives for action are to approve the request as presented, deny the request, and send staff back to rebid the project. Our recommendation is approving the project for a total cost of $157,780. This would include the 5-year maintenance plan. This connection is critical to the Sheriff's Office operations. The connection will be used by Sheriff's Office staff, enabling them to access the applications and data that they need to access in order to do their jobs and perform their critical functions. The budget impact, this project was included in the owner's allowance in the overall jail bond. Although this project will expend only about 40% of the amount reserved, it has recently come to staff's attention that other IT equipment was not specifically included in the overall jail construction financing, and the county will need to hold savings from the fiber project to cover these anticipated expenses. That's my report. Any questions?
Well, for someone who's technological challenged, why do we need a special cable for the jail? Say we don't run special cable for community corrections or for the health department or for road and bridge. You know, there's special cable coming clear back to this building. Why doesn't the city, I mean, as an example, run one to the Parks Department or Central Garage? Why do we need this special cable?
In the public safety space, which the Sheriff's Office is in, we share these applications and data with the city of Salina in order for them to do their job. The applications that they run is called MSP, which is a Tyler Technologies product. The Sheriff's Office today, we have fiber that's buried between the law enforcement center, and this building as well, and that's how they connect back to us to be able to run these applications. MSP allows them to book a prisoner in, book a suspect into the jail. It allows them to open up what they call a jacket on somebody that's had an incident that's been reported, like speeding or DUI or something of that nature. So this connection that we have today allows them to run these applications and access this data that's required for them to do their job. This new cable that we're talking about would really substitute for that connectivity that we have today.
Brad,
Yes.
can I think the answer to Commissioner Vidrickson's question is there are really two reasons. One is the volume the connectivity needed for the sheriff's office is greater than the volume of other remote offices, and the other is the security need is greater. Is that correct?
That is. You mentioned Road and Bridge. We're talking about the difference of 150 users at the sheriff's office as opposed to maybe 75 or 80 users at Road and Bridge. So to Phil's point, that quantity is a big thing. The other thing that this connection will allow the sheriff's office to do is they will come back to the city-county building to access the internet, which allows us to filter connections and help us in the area of cybersecurity on those connections. Email will be filtered at the edge as well. So, but there is a quantitative difference between the number of users in the sheriff's office and, say, Road and Bridge, or even community corrections. Community corrections is a little different in the sense that they have their own network, and all we provide them is email support.
And I'm assuming the cost of setting up their own system out there is much more than this?
At Road and Bridge?
No, at the jail.
At the jail. I would agree that it is more expensive, and the appealing thing about this Next Tech offer is that they already have facilities under the railroad tracks between here and there, and I think that's a really big deal. That it adds cost and it adds delay to if somebody had to come in and bore under the railroad tracks. So hopefully that answered your question.
Well, I just thought, why they're sending all the information back here, I'm just saying, is it $1 million to have their own system out there? Is it $500,000 to have their system out there? So there's not even a need to do that, because Community Corrections already has their own system out there.
Good question. It would mean that we would stop sharing a lot of these costs with the city of Salina
Okay.
in the public safety space. That arrangement is not impossible. The cost of it, I would just only be guessing. I think it would be pretty expensive to
Much
do.
higher than this.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been doing this, we've been sharing this application with the city of Salina for many years. So, as long as I've been here, so.
And
any
do they
arrangement-
participate in that cost?
They do.
Okay.
Yes. I think just basically the way the relationship works is the city and the county split hardware costs for this public safety application.
I will admit that, thank you for the response, by the way, but I will admit that I'll show my ignorance in that I didn't understand it. So I guess from there, I just have to start trusting staff and so forth that it's a needed application. But again, I just don't understand the need.
Brad, does this 12-strand fiber optics, excuse me, does it have enough reserve for future? Is this what we need today, or is there plenty there to expand the systems and take care of our?
The answer is yes. With 12 strands, that would also give us the opportunity to make the new jail a target for some backup data replication. Those ideas haven't really taken form yet, but certainly having this in the ground and having this capability will make that more possible. So yes, it is plenty of capacity.
My question's in regards to the 8,500 maintenance agreement. We've got a 12-strand fiber optic. What are the anticipated maintenance costs? What are we getting for that money?
I think that's a really good question. And if we look at the actual agreement, there are some exclusions for things like moves. If the railroad did some sort of a major project and that fiber had to be moved, that would be on us to to fund that. The maintenance cost that we're proposing is if once the fiber is in the ground and it stops performing, we have a problem with it in the ground. I don't know, a squirrel or something like that chews something, that the maintenance, the 5-year maintenance would cover us there. But if we had to, say, move it, or if the fiber got cut by a third party, the actual agreement talks about carrying insurance on it and things of that nature. So I would anticipate that that we would evaluate at the end of 5 years whether we needed to renew this maintenance or not. I think we would know for sure. The maintenance or the fiber that's been in the ground between the two entities has been very stable. So
Thank you.
we do not have to include that if we don't want to. I would just recommend that we do in case once the fiber gets in the ground, we have an issue with it.
It's pretty cheap insurance policy.
And Brett, just a quick question here is that you made the statement earlier where the Next Tech already has a fiber going underneath the railroad tracks or a tube that allows them to get this underneath the deal.
Conduit.
So if at that point there where the railroad tracks had to be moved, and why would it be up to us to move all of their tube at that time or their fiber?
Because we would own it. And
That one fiber. Now, how many other people would have to pay for it because of how many other fibers go underneath there?
that's kind of an unknown.
Okay.
But they would, whoever else owned fiber underneath the railroad tracks that was going to be affected by that project would have to get the fiber out of the way.
Okay.
They'd have plenty of time to do it,
Okay.
but they would. And this agreement talks about that, actually. If it does need to be moved, it would be up to the county to negotiate at a current time and materials cost to actually move it, so.
Okay.
It'd be going through their right-of-way. The railroad has that right-of-way.
Well-
So it'd be up to us to do it.
But my question is my thought process is that if they already have it there and we're just putting another cable through along with, let's say, 7 other companies that already have a fiber going through their existing tube, and they have to move their existing tube, why would it be to the county? I mean, it'd be up to the county to move our one line, but I just can't see us footing the bill to move the whole, and it probably wouldn't, but thank you.
All right, any other questions of Brad? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Next Tech proposal for a total cost of $157,780 as presented by staff.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 125-22, excuse me. Before we vote, is there any public comment? I get ahead of myself. Thank you, Phil. All right, back to that. It's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 125-22, new gel dark fiber. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Item number 3.
RFA 122-22, bid award for 2022 hot mix asphalt construction with Justin Mader, County Engineer.
Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So I'm here to award the bid for hot mix asphalt pavement, milling, and aggregate shouldering construction. Sealed bids were open on February 28th at 11 a.m., and we received one bid from APAC, Kansas. And in your packet, you should have a copy of the bid tabs where it compares the engineer's estimate. Getting one bid for this work has been pretty typical, as we've only had one. I think since I've been here, since 2019, it's just been the one bid from APAC, Kansas. So that's kind of the norm. Project locations for the overlay milling and shouldering include Ohio Street from I-70 to north of Thatcher. This project will also include several large, or actually quite a few large crack repairs in that section of road. And it will cause Ohio Street to be closed for short periods of time while we repair those cracks. And so there's going to be some disruptions to traffic through there. It's not going to be a typical overlay where we're just running a pilot car through there. The second project will be Waterwell Road from the Smoky Hill River Bridge to Simpson Road. And this project will include a half mile of a 1-inch deep mill. Waterwell Road from Lightville Road to Burma Road. And this project will include an additional 1.5 inch overlay from Crest Lane to Knoll Lane. We've got some pavement distress in that area. And after a lot of discussions, and we've had some testing done, and like I said, I've talked with my staff, with maintenance, and it was kind of decided, let's just try some additional pavement thickness in that area to see if we can help minimize that distress. The fourth location is a Stimmel Road approach onto Simpson Road, so that's just a small area of pavement on Stimmel Road as we're approaching onto Simpson Road. And then we do have 6 short locations of pavement distress around the county that we need to take care of. And then finally, we've got just a county-wide patching bid. And so as a year goes along and we find some other areas of pavement distress, we've got a mechanism to have APAC to go in and repair that area. So all asphalt and shouldering work must be completed by December 2nd of this year. However, as we've done in the past, we're not going to allow any work during wheat harvest activities. Alternatives for action will be 1, to accept the bid indicating staff recommendation, or to reject the bids. Staff recommends to accept the bid from APAC Kansas for the amount of estimated work to equal $1,398,076.85. Funds for this work will be taken from the budgeted line item contractual asphalt work. This line item has a current unencumbered balance of $2.5 million. So, however, other work that will be taken from this line item will include the chip seal, the crack seal, and our aggregate shouldering contracts. And so we're going to have to balance these 4 operations with that budget line item. So, but with me trying to balance out our work, really our needs that we have for this year, and again, that's our overlay, crack seal, chip seal, and our aggregate shouldering, I'm requesting to use up to $550,000 to be taken out of our 127 account, which is our special highway improvement fund. This account has a current balance of a little over $1.7 million. And so we use the 127 account to deposit funds from several other programs that we're involved with, and one of them being their federal fund exchange program. And so we deposit those funds, and so this year I'm anticipating about $245,000 from that program to be deposited into the 127, as well as $200,000 from the Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program. So in reality, we're looking at about deposits of about $445,000, and so I'd be using about an additional $100,000 out of that fund from what's in there currently.
One question you might be able to clarify for me. Did we put out request bid for a certain amount, tonnage of asphalt or miles of asphalt? Or, I mean, it seems like there's, inside these projects, there's portions that might grow, you might need more, or whatever.
Correct. So, yeah, how we bid out each project is, there's a length of project and a width. And so my office, what we do is we calculate what we think the quantities are going to be. And so each project location has quantities set, and they're more theoretical quantities. I mean, they're what we think they should hit, based off a width and a thickness and a length. And so what they'll bid is, they provide a unit price of for each item on there. So for instance, like your asphalt, they provide a unit price for the asphalt, and then we multiply that by the total tons that we anticipate, and that'll give us our total for that line item. But however, during construction, things change. You know, we get out there and, you know, the existing pavement might have a little more rutting to it, which will cause a little bit more asphalt to be put in there. Or the width is just a little bit, you know, the width might vary through there. And so there is some variations that will cause quantities to change, and we have to kind of adjust that on the fly, you know, whether we allow those quantities to be adjusted up or down a little bit. You know, however, if it's adjusted too much, you know, we've got to kind of look at it and say, okay, well, we're going to allow this overrun on this project, but we know we've got to start cutting, you know, either some length, or we go from a 2-inch overlay to an 1.5 inch, you know, thickness to reduce quantities on another project. So it's definitely a balance during construction, trying to keep everything within a reasonable cost.
I guess the reason for my question was they bid a unit cost of asphalt up to this amount of money. And if we should need more, are they still locked into that unit price?
Yes, there's language in there that their unit prices are really what's set. The quantities aren't set, and the total bid is not set, but what's set is the unit prices.
So if we have a special project that comes up, that another mile of road that we wanted to asphalt, they would be beholding to that unit price to do that in that calendar, or in that year.
It is, no, not necessarily, because if you look at the bid for each project location, the price of the asphalt is different on each one of them, because they've got costs associated for each project, and the higher tons you have for one project is you're going to be able to reduce that cost per ton of asphalt, because they can spread out their overhead a lot more than a really small project. And so that's why you see the different costs in the asphalt. But each project has got a lot of, you know, different items. So it's not just asphalt. There's mobilization. There's, you know, your shouldering. There's patching. And, you know, nothing's really the same for each project. And so if we did another mile somewhere, we would, we'd have to get an estimate from them and approve a change order. But it wouldn't be the same unit prices as we're approving right now.
Quick question here on, and I just want to start with the water well from the bridge really to Simpson Road. Mm-hmm. What is the 8-inch patching, HMA, that's hot mill asphalt? Mm-hmm. And patching, 8-inch.
Right, so that is a bid item that we add to the project if, once we get to construction, there is an area of pavement that has completely failed. You know, typically it's a base. We've got a base issue in there. So there's a bid item in there for the contractor to replace that area of pavement prior to the overlay. But we put that on almost every project. And most of the time, we don't use it. And so we still have a unit price, but the quantities will just be zero. And so then there's no payment for that.
Okay, and of course, driving these two, and then I want to go to the next one is the Waterwell Road to Lightville Road, Burma to Lightville. Both those roads I go on quite often, and it's like, I don't see, and there probably is an area on the first one, on the Waterwell to Simpson, you know, of where this patching might be needed, but I don't see it. But on the Lightville, from Lightville to Burma, there's areas there that I would determine that is like really need to be dug up and went down way far and patched up.
Yeah, so that's a project that we have talked about. And like I said, we've had testing on that project, testing the subgrade. We had a company come out and do that subgrade testing, and the results were just all over the place. Yep. You know, as far as, you know, we had areas that showed that our subgrade was really soft, where the asphalt was really cracking up, which would make sense. But then we go down the road a little ways and we do some subgrade testing, again, in the areas of a lot of cracking, and the subgrade's really hard. And it's just all over the place. And so, and that's where, we can go down and we can do a bunch of work trying to stabilize the base, because that's where it's at. That's
Yep.
the issue, and never get deep enough.
Okay, I know, but I just remember when this issue, almost the exact same thing there back on Holmes Road, back years ago, way before you was probably born, but I mean, it's like on Holmes Road, and then they come in and dug up certain areas, and they dug way down and filled it all back in. And that road has never really had this issue ever again.
Right.
And that's, I would just say, I would look at this, that Lightville to Burma, thinking about that, going, if we was going to do that with this new overlay that you want to put on it, I'd think that we would go in and fix it down deep and do it. But that's just, but, and the 1 mil, a 1.5 inch overlay from Crest Lane to No Lane, that's over there. That's, once you get this all done, you're going to have another 1.5 inch on top of that.
Yeah, we would actually do that first. We would do that 1 inch, inch and a half overlay first, and then we would back up to Burma and then do the whole road.
Okay.
So you don't have a bump through there, and so it's just,
Okay.
that's how we would do it, but yes. So in a sense, in that section between those two roads, we would have 3 inches of additional asphalt pavement there. And it's because it's a subgrade issue. So as your loads are putting stresses into subgrade, the thicker your asphalt structure is there, it does lessen the load to the subgrade. And so we're just hoping that'll really improve that area.
Okay.
Other questions, Justin? Any comments from the public? I'll turn it back to the commissioners for possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we award the bid for HMA construction to APAC Kansas in the amount as presented by staff.
Second the motion.
Been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 122-22 bid award for 2022 hot mix asphalt construction. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Item number 4.
RFA 123-22 bid award for 2022 Bituminous crack sealing with Estimator County Engineer.
Hello again.
Yes.
So on February 28th at 10:30, we did open bids for our bituminous crack sealing, and we received 3 bids. And you should have again a copy of the bid tabs in your packet, which shows the details of those bids along with the engineer's estimate. The roads to receive crack sealed were prioritized into 3 categories, and you should have a map in your packet as well. So the priority 1 roads, those are the roads marked red on the project map. They must be completed by August 5th. And the reason for that is because these roads will also receive a chip seal this year. And so we want to get the crack seal operation done before the chip seal contractors come into the county. And then the priority 2 and 3 roads, and those are the roads marked light blue and dark blue on the project map, they must be completed by December 9th. However, the light blue roads, those are the priority 2 roads. We want those completed first before they move to the priority 3 or the dark blue roads. Again, just like the overlay, we will not allow any work to be done during the wheat harvest construction. Alternatives for action is to accept the bids as indicated in staff recommendation, 2, to accept the bids from a different contractor, or 3, reject the bids. Staff recommends to accept the bid from Pavement Pros for the amount of estimated work to equal $115,020. Funds for this project will be taken from our budgeted line item contractual asphalt work. This account does have a current balance of $2.5 million. However, we just awarded the asphalt overlay, and so that will reduce that number by that amount. Other contractual work, so to be taken from this account is the overlay, the chip seal projects, and those are chip seal projects are being advertised currently to where we'll open those bids in 3 or 4 weeks. And then our aggregate shouldering work. Have any questions?
Is this,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Robert.
My question, Justin, is there's a pretty substantial difference here between the cost. Pavement Pros, have we done business with those before?
Yes, besides, they've, since I've been here, they've done the work in 2019 and 2020. They're a contractor out of McPherson, and they do great work. I've always been very, very happy with the work that they perform.
Question answered.
Question is this here, the crack and seal, is that where we went out of state and brought in the company from Minnesota or Michigan
Yes,
last year to
yes.
do this? Is there any of these roads, I mean, did they ever come back and finish the projects, or is there any roads here that are getting done again that was supposed to be done last year?
No, they did come back and complete the program.
Okay.
So I'm actually a little surprised and happy that they did,
Okay.
because that work needed to be done. But yeah, that was all.
Okay.
Last year's program was completed.
Okay, thank you.
These 2 asphalt projects, you didn't address the price increase compared percentage compared in the past.
So for the asphalt overlay work, it's kind of hard. It's really hard to compare, total projects, because last year was, the overlays included widening on Old 81 and Old 40, and so it's not quite the same. But if you just look at the price of asphalt, just that one line item, there was a 7.5% increase from last year's prices for the price of asphalt. I think it went from $74, a little over $74 to $79.50 this year. So that price increase was a lot lower than what we're seeing from KDOT bids. So I'm very happy with that. And so with the crack seal, I would say, and I can't compare to last year's prices because that was a bid that they left out a lot of work in their bid. However, they did honor their bid, and so it's quite a bit more this year. But if you look at 2 years ago, I would say you're looking at that 4 or 5% increase from two years ago. And so to me, that's a pretty reasonable increase.
Thank you.
Justin, I've also noticed that you've got the Saline County Road and Bridge internal roads and parking lots included in on this.
Yes.
The parking lot out there is pretty new.
Yes.
So what needs to be done there?
With all asphalt, it's going to crack, and it has cracked, especially the road, the road from our gate, that goes in front of our office right there. That's to the bridge. That's been cracking up pretty good, and so we want to get that sealed. And then there's some cracks that are developing out there in the parking lot. And so again, it's the same thing with any road. You're trying to keep the water out of the base, and that's going to keep your roads in a lot better condition. And it's actually a really easy thing to do because the contractors will store their equipment in our yard overnight, and so they'll just hit those roads on the way out.
Any questions from the public? If not, I'll turn it back to the commissioners for possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we award the bid to Pavement Pros for the amount of estimated work to equal $115,000.20 as presented.
Second the motion.
I think we need to amend that a little bit because it's not $15,000.20.
$115,020.
There we go.
Thank you.
My second still stands.
All right, thanks, Robert. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve RFA 123-22 bid award for 2022 say it for me, would you? I'm
Oh,
talking
Bituminous.
Bituminous, thank you.
Bituminous.
Crack ceiling. I got tongue-tied there. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Item number 5.
RFA 124-22, Resolution 22-2360, Commission Redistricting with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this item concerns redistricting of commission districts. We've talked about this a couple of times already, but just to briefly review, Lauren, if you go to the next slide. These are the current commission districts as approved in 2014. We are not proposing any changes in the sort of zoomed out view affecting any of the townships. Next slide. Just go to the next slide, please. Okay. As we go into central Salina, however, this is the current configuration. Due to population changes from the 2020 census, there will need to be changes in this area. Go on to the next slide. So we presented previously 2 options. The first option would be to move 5 of the precincts between commission districts as indicated on the map. And then if you go on to the next slide, that movement of those 5 precincts creates a little bit of an interlocking panhandle problem here in the middle of town between districts 1 and 5. And so to remedy that, if you go on to the next slide, there are 2 additional precincts that are proposed to be moved to create more compact districts. And so it's a total of 7 precincts that would be moving, and that was what your commission decided on when we presented this previously, and so that is reflected in the resolution that you have before you today as Resolution 22-2360, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about that.
Could we go back 2 slides, Lauren? I just want to see the arrows again. So as an example, the one on the top will be moving from the pink to the purple, is that correct? And then so on?
Yes, that's correct. The arrows indicate the direction of movement. So there's essentially a swap of precincts between districts 1 and 5, and then there's 1 precinct moving from 2 to 5, 1 from 2 to 1, and then 1 from 3 to 2.
So I'm sure you know the discrepancy between the amount of population. I assume it's looks like District 2 had the higher population that we needed to move. Is that correct?
Districts 2 and 3 were overpopulated, and districts 1 and 5 were underpopulated.
That
Yes, so that
answers
is the
my-
reason for the movements. Correct.
That's what it looks like to me, but I
absolutely.
wanted that confirmation.
Yeah. So this is really the what we call the minimum movement necessary, and then additional 2 precinct swap just to get the lines a little more compact, and that's what you all agreed on. So
When we do this, will this transform into a different polling place for these people?
yeah, that's probably a question that the clerk can answer, but yes, there will be notices that will be sent out to all the affected voters, and Jamie and I have talked a little bit about the language for those notices, making sure that it's very clear. But Jamie, if you'd like to weigh in.
Some of those won't really move too many places. I think only about 2 or 3 might move voting locations, but we're sending out what we normally send out, the notice of disposition, but we're also putting in red on there that their county commission district had changed. So we're making sure that people are aware of that. And we'll also put out some social media as well, just so they have that.
So when you say 2 or 3, meaning 2 or 3 precincts?
Two or three of the precincts will have to move their vote.
And I think that's importantly to be conveyed is the fact that it's a minimal amount of people are going to be affected by this, and change is always bad when it comes to that. Well, I commend the staff in terms of their due diligence here in getting this transformed over and with the least amount of effect on the voting public.
Any other comments or questions by the commission? Any comments or questions from the public? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to the commission for possible action.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adopt Resolution 22-2360 as presented.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve RFA 124-22, Resolution 22-2360, Commission Redistricting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We now move into our informational items. Item number 1.
Fleet management discussion with Hannah Stambaugh, Deputy County Administrator.
Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this has been quite a bit of a project over the last year and a half. So if you remember back in late of 2020, information was brought to the Commission about the potential of leasing vehicles. From that discussion, you directed staff to look into some other things, to include a request for information to be released on leasing. And then we had a discussion with the Commission on that back in March of 2021. At that point, the Commission really wanted for staff to go back and explore some different options, had requested some information from other jurisdictions. So this discussion today really does not have any type of action that's to it. It's just to provide you with as much information as we possibly can on what was discovered when we looked at our current fleet, when we talked to some of the different jurisdictions that are out there as far as what they are doing, and then some potential things to look at as options for further discussion with the Commission. I have some slideshow stuff, but it's very simple. So if you want to go to the first slide. This opportunity to really kind of research and explore this actually kind of came at a really good time. So yeah, it took us a year to get back to this point. But so this is one of the things I was tasked with, is really taking a look at what our current fleet looks like. So part of that was sitting down with each of the different departments, the Sheriff's Office, Road and Bridge, Community Corrections, Expo Center, and really talk about their current fleet of vehicles. Really get an idea as far as their mindset goes when it comes to procurement, when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to disposal of vehicle strategies, and really just trying to get a really good handle on what that was. Frankly, what came out of that discussion with each of those departments was everybody kind of does their own thing. There's really no solid methodology countywide when it comes to vehicles and fleet management. So to give you an idea, Saline County has a fleet of about roughly 81 vehicles. That's not including some of those specialized vehicles or really heavy-duty trucks that Expo Center or Road and Bridge has. So we're mainly talking Sheriff's Office, Community Corrections, Road and Bridge. Those probably about 5 departments are pretty heavy vehicle users. And then as far as the fleet worth with those, and again, excluding some of those heavier machinery and specialized equipment, is about $4 million. So that's a pretty large investment that we have in the county. So we also have personal vehicle mileage that is paid out. And while every single department has personal vehicle mileage kind of put into their budgets, we do have 3 departments that have substantial budgetary funds for personal vehicle mileage, and that's the Health Department, Planning and Zoning, and Appraiser. Just those 3 departments combined is roughly about $75,000 a year that they budget to pay out in personal vehicle mileage. So really what kind of came about a lot of the discussion with the departments is I really found out quickly that we have a very just decentralized way of managing our current fleet. Again, I said, every department just kind of did their own thing. So it made it really difficult to gather a lot of information. It made it really difficult to gather a lot of analytics on our current fleet. But we certainly did the best that we most possibly could. So there's just really no consistent strategy in place as far as what the county expects out of our vehicles. It varies from department to department. So another thing that gets kind of thrown in the mix is the chip shortage. And that has caused some extreme delays in manufacturing. The information that was in your packet had said that just in context, we were still waiting for 4 or 5 sheriff's office vehicles to be built. Last Friday, we actually received a letter from the dealership that told us they have canceled our order and those vehicles will not be built. So that certainly becomes a challenge. The soonest that we could potentially even think about placing an order would probably be July. And that means that we wouldn't get those vehicles until probably September or October of potentially this year. And obviously, the model would change. It would no longer be a 2022 vehicle. It would be a 2023 vehicle. That creates some other challenges when we talk about specialized law enforcement patrol vehicles. Another recent example is Road and Bridge went out to bid for 2 vehicles, or for 2 trucks, and we got 1 bid for 1 vehicle. So I guess we were lucky in that aspect, but so that still means we have got 5 sheriff's office vehicles and at least 1 road and bridge vehicle that are going to continue to gain mileage, continue to have increased maintenance costs until we can get those vehicles replaced. So and I know that's not anything that's unique to Saline County. It just kind of just shows the different times that we are in. So I want to talk about just some of the different things that are concerns that just seem to kind of like permeate every single discussion that I had with not only our current departments, but then also some of the same problems that I saw with discussions from other jurisdictions. One of the things is we do have a very large variety of makes and models. That makes it really difficult to use any type of really big centralized way of purchasing equipment. I guess my best example for that is, and I'll be honest, I kind of fear just a little bit that when we get to this movement of whether it be 2022 patrol vehicles or 2023 patrol vehicles, I really hope that the model really doesn't change much because there's still equipment that needs to go in that car. And if what we purchased for the 2022 vehicle doesn't fit the 2023 vehicle, then we have another little issue too. So that's when it comes to just some of those specialized pieces of equipment that goes into a lot of those law enforcement vehicles. There's really a lack of consistent and documented way of disposing of vehicles. The sheriff's office does a really good job with most of the time just offering those vehicles as trade-ins, but Road and Bridge typically uses Purple Wave to dispose of vehicles. Again, it's just a hodgepodge of whatever it is that that department feels is appropriate as far as getting rid of that vehicle. There's the maintenance costs that are associated with repairs. We see that in our older vehicles, the maintenance costs have drastically risen because it certainly does take a lot more time and money to repair vehicles that are 10, 15 years old versus those that are 3 to 5 years old, potentially still under some type of a warranty. And then just really no cohesive organizational approach to procurement or maintenance. If you want to go to the next slide. So just kind of gives an idea. So we have got one of our newer vehicles with the senior services on the right hand, and then we've got another vehicle belonging to the Livestock and Expo Center on the left. So just different ways of being able to look at those vehicles and find out. I mean, they're both very well used vehicles, but different mentalities of each department as far as upkeep, maintenance, and everything on those vehicles. And next slide. And then just to give you an idea as far as the sheriff's office vehicles, when we talk about specialized equipment, again, we have got a mix of Ford Explorers and Dodge Durangos in the sheriff's office. Obviously, the equipment inside a Ford Explorer doesn't fit inside of a Durango and vice versa. And then, of course, the model years certainly change that. So one of the questions that the commission asked last year was, what do other people do? What do other jurisdictions do? So we had an opportunity to really talk to quite a few folks, quite a few different jurisdictions that we have. And what I very much quickly found out was those that have fleet managers or somebody that just completely oversees their entire fleet of vehicles had a lot more information, had a lot more detail, had a lot more analytics to be able to provide than those that didn't, those that kind of experience those same pain points as we do. Leavenworth, Reno, Riley counties, they all actually have very comparable sizes of fleets to Saline County. So those are really nice conversations to have, like-minded, like size and everything. But also, they also have fleet managers that are heavily involved in not only the analytics of their fleet, but maintenance when it comes to budgetary and being able to make recommendations for vehicle replacements, as well as telematics. So those were kind of those center pillar stones that we had with those conversations. Another one of the questions that the commission asked about, as far as what do others do, as far as leasing. That's really kind of a hit and miss. I had a really good conversation with Leavenworth County, and they do lease vehicles, but they only lease vehicles that they know are going to be intended to have low use, low mileage. That's just the methodology that they have determined is best for their county. For them, the leasing part of it just provided a little bit more of a return on investment for them, and just a lot of different cost savings for them with vehicles being under warranty. Obviously, they've experienced the same chip shortage as well. In 2021, they signed a contract to lease 37 vehicles. They're still waiting on 21 of them. So same boat that we are. They do continue to purchase some of the heavier duty trucks outright just because of the work that they do, the equipment that they haul, just the potential for some of those other minor damage type stuff, the roads that they travel on. So they still do bid out those different heavy duty trucks. The other thing that they had talked about was using telematics, and we'll talk about telematics a little bit more later on. They do use telematics to do a lot of monitoring of driver behavior, but really, he said the catalyst to it is just really for us to be able to manage our fleet better, to know, what vehicles are costing us more money, which vehicles are running into issues with maintenance, so on and so forth. Reno and Riley County, they don't do any leasing of vehicles, but they have investigated it. Obviously, they're kind of seeing the trend of some of those, county jurisdictions that have gone to leasing. So, but regardless, their fleet management staff certainly allows for a lot of just different continual evaluation of their fleet. I had a really good conversation too with Harvey County. They are like us, very decentralized. All their departments do their own thing. And throughout the conversation, just really realized that we just kind of experienced some of those different pain points. So to move on to just adding to some of this discussion and some of the options that we kind of looked into, we also talked during the commission visioning session that you really wanted to explore a more centralized way of purchasing. So this kind of fit into that. So again, this is why we are here today, to have some more discussions on this and to talk about this in a little bit more detail. Really, the overall goal is to make sure that county employees have reliable access to vehicles and the equipment that they need for their operational needs. And we want to make sure that all of this is purchased, operated, and maintained in a safe and cost-effective environment. And that's really the overall goal. So some of the things that we would like to provide you is just as options to start thinking about is the potential of actually hiring a fleet manager. With a fleet of the size of ours, and the potential for it to be larger as we move into the future, there is really, I could see a potential need for us to have somebody, as far as dedicated staff, to continually evaluate our fleet, look at research, be able to provide reports, provide cost-benefit analysis, return on investment type of information, really work with the different departments in figuring out what is the best way of being able to manage our fleet. But I think there's also an opportunity to explore further if there are opportunities for partnerships, such as with the City of Salina or with USD 305, even maybe with just one of our own county departments. We don't know exactly what that looks like. So the City of Salina does operate Central Garage, and they do have dedicated staff. But as far as their capacity of being able to take on our fleet 100%, I think it would be very difficult with that. So I do think that there's some opportunities for some more discussions with partnerships. Certainly granted, if the commission wants to look at that into further. The other one is the implementation of telematics. What I've got up on the screen, and the commission actually did get to see a little sneak peek of this when we were out at Road and Bridge for that study session back on February 22nd. So Road and Bridge has implemented this service through Verizon to better track their vehicles. And what they really indicated to the commission during that discussion was it's really proven to be very beneficial in not only identifying where their trucks are at, but be able to keep different, better tabs for a safety aspect on their drivers, but then also being able to aid in researching citizen complaints too. So really the purpose of telematics isn't to be that eye in the sky, big brother watching you type of thing. It's really for us to be able to take a look at driver behaviors and figure out how it is that we can correct bad behavior, how we can better educate for our entire staff to be better drivers, because what that ultimately does is gives us a tool, a negotiating tool when it comes to insurance. And making sure that we have got programs in place to have safe, effective drivers. The other option that is was researched and looked at was participation in a program called WEX Fleet. What that is, it's a fuel card program. It would not cost the county anything to join. We can join in under the wings of the state of Kansas's contract. But while a majority of our vehicles utilize the City of Salina's fuel pump station, we do have other staff that goes out of town, out of state, and has to purchase fuel. Most of the time that's done on county credit cards, but what that doesn't do is it doesn't take away some of the fuel tax like it would be if you're getting gas at the city fuel pump stations. So I think this is something that can be implemented very quickly and with little effort, just as an option to make sure that we're watching costs appropriately, but then also making sure that we still have an option for our county employees to be able to purchase fuel outside of the city pumps. So, like I said in the beginning, there's really no recommendation that's coming from this. This is purely discussion, information, ideas, and just ability to maybe answer any additional questions that you might have, solicit feedback, provide us with further direction, just looking for a very good conversation as far as what it is that, what you think and what other information you want to see.
I have no questions. I do have observations here. Number one, you mentioned 3 departments that we pay a lot of mileage on, and I assume that's Health Department, Appraiser, and Community Corrections. Would that be correct?
No, Health Department, Appraiser, and Planning and Zoning.
Planning and Zoning, okay. Do we know, and you don't mention how many cars each one of those departments would need if we were to go to providing the vehicles for them.
I do have that information.
Okay, and that is?
So I looked at, and what I did was I took their average mileage paid out over the last 5 years and kind of made a little bit of a determination as far as how many miles are driven in a year and then how many vehicles that might equate to based off of their staff. So for planning and zoning, it would be 2 vehicles. The appraiser, 5 vehicles, and health department, 4.
So that's an additional 11, which would take us to 92. Okay, that'll take care of that observation. Number 2, you mentioned the sheriff's department and their vehicles. I don't think that that's a good comparison, simply because they have their vehicles that they order are so specialized. I have a family member that ordered a vehicle, not just a run-of-the-mill, but added add-ons, takeoffs, whatever, February the 5th or something. They've already got notification that it's being built and will be delivered in the next couple of weeks. Now, I think Road and Bridge both, and the sheriff, and all departments, we need to look at possibly minimizing all of our add-ons that we've got for these vehicles. I understand the sheriff absolutely wants the biggest motor they can find, et cetera. Maybe take a look at other places around. I see lots of different types of vehicles being used for law enforcement. Maybe our sheriff's department needs to refine some of those things. Maybe our road and bridge department doesn't need a 4-door pickup. That might be the best, or they may not need a certain motor, a 3/4 ton. It doesn't matter, but we need to think outside the box, as we like to say, on what type of, what can we minimize? If I were the sheriff or any of these departments that's not getting it, I would like to find out from the dealer why. What is it? What specifically is holding up this order? Why are you canceling it? Find that out, and then maybe you can work without that, as is in the future. So we need to identify the changes that's possible in our ordering process. Next, and I'll go into the hiring of a fleet manager. I think that would be a big mistake. Right now, with our entire fleet, if we kept them 5 years, that would be buying 16 vehicles a year. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't hire another person, but you certainly want to put some other responsibilities onto that person, because 16 vehicles a year, I mean, you can do that in less than a week's time, probably. So I think what we should possibly look at is just like we did with hiring our planning and zoning director. We partnered with another county. Perhaps we can go out and find a company that does this type of, outsourcing. That's where I would begin, and because they would be able to do this, and for I don't know what their commission would be. That would, the number of vehicles that they're buying, and they would certainly have more sources than. So I would contract that out. And finally, I would say that the WEX fleet thing, while good, it's got very limited value to us because we don't have that many people that go out of town. But I would suggest that we do it. But we're not going to be able to go to a sheriff's car. It's not going to fill up at one of the local stations and outdo what the city gets for cost of the fuel. So certainly would be someone who's going to Colby or Topeka or wherever, or Sioux City, Iowa, or whatever, and have that card. So those are my observations that I take away from this. It's pretty detailed. I appreciate you doing it, but that's how I feel about those 4 different things.
Thank you.
A couple questions, and you answered one of them for Robert on the number of private vehicles that are being used. But is the employees that are using their private vehicles, is there some type of monetary incentive to drive their, are they being reimbursed at, 57 cents, or I don't know where it's at now? I mean, is it a job benefit to them to use their own vehicle?
I think that depends on who you talk to.
Right, and have we talked to them? Have we talked to all of them?
We have not talked to all of them. I have certainly talked to a handful of them.
And?
And they certainly would support some type of county-owned vehicle versus using their own vehicle. To answer your question, so yes, our employees are paid the rate of federal vehicle mileage. For 2022, it's 58.5 cents with the jump in gas. I don't know. That's quite comparable, but we can't control that. Our appraiser's office actually does receive what they call hard vehicle mileage, just because there's a lot of stopping and starting when they're out in the field. That is at a little bit of a higher rate, but everybody else that uses personal vehicles, it's just paid out of the federal rate. There's no other type of monetary compensation.
Okay. And on the cancellation of the vehicles, could you give me how many vehicles were canceled again?
5.
5, and that's all out of the SO?
Correct. One of them was, so I think, if I remember correctly, again, we accepted that bid about a year and a half ago, or a year ago. If I'm not mistaken, I think 2 of them were just run-of-the-mill SUV, bare bones, like warrant officer type vehicles. They were not specialized patrol vehicles. And then 3 of them were actually specialized patrol vehicles.
And is there no performance bond on these? When they sign a contract, that there's nothing holding them to fulfill that contract? They can just arbitrarily cancel a contract?
So that has been a little bit of a source of conversation with the sheriff's office recently, because we are in different times. This is not a situation that we've run across before. But no, there is no performance bond when it comes to vehicles. There are with other projects, but that's certainly something that we can talk about and being able to do that. The other part of it is just, so there are force majeure clauses, and if the dealership can't get them, they can't get them.
Okay. Was this with multiple dealers, or was this one dealer?
Just one dealer. One dealer had
One
bid
dealer.
on all 5 of them.
And I know why we only got a bid for one pickup. And well, we got 2 bids for that pickup with Road and Bridge. One of them was quite a bit higher. It's understandable that vehicles are at a premium right now, and why would they go out for competitive bids knowing they have a market out there? And it would behoove them to cancel a contract they signed with Saline County for these vehicles, when on the market they're worth very much more, $15,000, $20,000 more. Why turn that money away when you have people begging for vehicles and you're meeting this one-year-old competitive bid? So it's a sad state of affairs. But it is what it is too.
Yeah.
I applaud your work on this. I'm sure it took a lot of time, and this is very helpful for us. Probably caused more questions than I can come up with right now, but definitely given us something to think about. In a perfect world, a fleet manager maybe could save enough money to pay for their salaries, but I'm not so sure that this county is big enough to do that. But, again, that's in a perfect world. Probably look at other ways to do that, because that makes a little bit of more sense just to be centralized in our process. I like the term that you used, hodgepodge, everybody doing a different thing. So as far as the motor fuel taxes, I know that we wouldn't want to pay them, but we also got to realize that that's that federal money that comes back to us too. And so that's just something to think about. But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll echo all the other comments, a thorough report. I'm not going to ask how many hours you have invested in it, but I will definitely try to absorb it and come up with some more questions later.
Well, I do have to say, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. So not only is this good information for the county, I went through the Certified Public Manager program and used this as my capstone project. So, yeah, so double duty, lots of hours that kind of went into it. If you don't mind, Commissioner Chadwick kind of brought up a question of mine, and Commissioner Vidrickson too. Do you think that there would be value in the potential to have somebody come in here and really do a very large analysis on our fleet? To your point, you had made the comment about, a fleet manager may pay their salary itself. And to Commissioner Vidrickson's point, just really kind of looking at being able to partner with somebody for some of those stuff. I don't know how the commission feels about, because there are companies out there that will come in and just do a complete analysis of your entire fleet. A lot deeper than what I can get into going down the tons of rabbit holes I already did with this. I don't know if that would be value to you.
Well, at some point, yeah, you've done the general work, but at some point, some experts got to come in, and whether somebody around Saline County can do that or somebody from outside does it, I don't know. I'd be open to looking at it, just depending on what the cost is and whether that, the cost-benefit ratio is good, that sort of thing, but definitely open to it. I would at least.
I think that's where the exploration should start.
Yeah.
Is to find out who does this type of thing.
Yep.
There's people out there, we all know that, and I'm a car guy, but I don't know that. That's something I've never really looked at. I'm my own fleet manager, my fleet of 3, So, I manage those. I know what it costs me to drive it per year, how often I want to trade, what's the value from driving it 40,000 miles and trading it in versus driving it 140,000 miles. And I can tell you, it's pretty darn close. It's pay me now or pay me later. And there was a well-known businessman in Salina, one of the Graves brothers at the time, said it doesn't cost anymore to go first class. And by that he meant order good vehicles and trade them fairly often. That doesn't necessarily apply to Saline County, I can assure you. I look at the picture of the Expo Center. That's not a fair comparison on that seat either. That truck is, while old, doesn't have that many miles on it. It does have somebody getting in and out of that seat probably 150 times a day, driving it across the street or to the other end of the property. That's where the deterioration comes. That truck isn't worn out, but in terms of mechanically, but I would be getting rid of it too. And the previous Expo Center director didn't want to ask for those things to be replaced. And I think the one now is asking for those types of things, so that's good. And I want to make one other point that I want to make it clear, the health department, the appraiser, and the planning, I am for getting them vehicles. When Enterprise came in and looked at it, they were talking four-door drive, four-wheel drive pickups. And that's not the type of vehicles that I don't think that we need for those. We could cut that down a bunch of money by getting a different type of a vehicle for those departments. That's an observation. But I think the big deal is to start and find a company or companies that do this type of work as outsourcing. Okay. Hopefully that would be a recommendation and outlet for this.
Well, with the leasing program, you have some of that fleet management built into it, because that vehicle's going to be under, for them to bring back in and replace, and they'll have recommendations. I'm still not totally on board with leasing. I think there might be certain departments it works. I'm worried, but with Road and Bridge and those that use those trucks pretty hard, that they're going to deteriorate and devalue pretty quick. And we also have the city of Salina, who we can look at to see how it's working for them. So it's not something that we have to do tomorrow. But as far as the Wix card goes, do you know how many out-of-county gallons of gas we bought, how much that would really impact us?
It really varied. It really did.
But a total?
No, it definitely varied over Well, so it's really difficult sometimes to go back into different departments' budgets and look to see when fuel was purchased and everything like that and really know for what purpose that was. I'm not going to say it's going to make a huge impact by any means. Basically, from the information that I saw, probably less than $5,000 a year.
Is there a cost to belong to that WEX?
No, there is not. We can actually just ride on the coattails of the contract that the state of Kansas has.
That's a pretty easy one then for me.
As far as a fleet manager, I agree with Commissioner Frederickson. I would like to outsource that if possible, at least look at the cost of outsourcing that. I hate to put on an employee and down the road, it doesn't benefit us enough to retain that employee. If we could outsource it, and maybe it wouldn't take a one full-time position the whole year. Maybe it's something that could be cost shared, or so I would be interested in hearing that.
Okay. I really appreciate the feedback. I think this is very helpful. So.
Any other questions? I'm sure we'll be hearing some more from you in the future.
I'm sure.
Are these pictures you had up there, are they going to be available to us?
Yeah, I can certainly send them.
Okay, because one of them that I'd really like to look at again is the one that you had that showed all the vehicles pretty much the county had, the big trucks and everything.
Sure.
Of that total number was a lot higher than this number, so it's like, I know that there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done with the big trucks and everything else too, that somebody needs to keep track of, so if we're going to look at it, we need to look at all of them and not just these.
Yep, absolutely. I can send that.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2.
The jail project update with Philip Smith Haynes, County Administrator.
Good morning again, Commissioners. So we are building a jail, as you all know, and so we're doing monthly updates to the commission. And Lauren, if you want to bring up that slideshow. And so the construction team is doing a monthly book and providing those to you in written form. And be happy to answer any questions about that. But I also, as commissioners are aware, last week went on a bit of a field trip with the sheriff and our architects and project managers to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and got to look at jail cells being built. So just had a few slides. I thought the process was fascinating. Hoping the commission will appreciate it as well. So this first slide is just the wire framing for a double cell that they're casting in place. Lauren, if you want to go on to the next slide. This is actually standing inside the mold. So what they do is they form that wire mesh outline of the cell and then put it into this mold. And then you see there at the bottom, there's some tracks that slide together, and then they pour concrete into this. So next slide shows the top. So this is looking down from the top of the mold, showing what will become the ceiling of the cell. And then the next slide, this shows the finished product. So this is the very first double cell that the manufacturer cast for the Saline County project. So this is actually a cell that will be going into our, 2 cells that will be going into our jail. And the next slide shows the interior of one of the cells. So we did actually make some adjustments. It was very valuable to see this, sort of live and in person. So those steps up to the upper bunk that you see there on the left, those were not the sturdiest metal, we found out. So those actually deformed when a couple people stepped on them. So we are adjusting that to a higher gauge metal. And then that last slide there that Lauren had hit, it just shows, I found that one fascinating. It's their quality control process, but also the weight of each of those. So that's 45,000 pounds that'll be coming down the road from Sioux Falls to Saline. So again, fascinating process. They're wanting us to go up a couple more times. I'm hoping the sheriff can take care of that without me, frankly, because although it was a great trip, it was a long trip. So this particular cell is one of the mezzanine level cells. They'll next be doing the first level cells. So the other thing is that last week, Commissioner Redistricting asked a question about the property ownership at the current jail site. So I pulled some information on that. So, yep, go on. There you go. So you can see that there's one lot that is the Saline County Law Enforcement Center addition, which does include the city police department. The municipal court building actually sits in what would have been the old right-of-way of 10th Street. So that is, we'll call that city property since that was a city right-of-way. But this is all, if you go on to the next slide, this is all county property. That entire ownership is one ownership, Saline County Jail. And then if you go to the next slide, I actually found the agreement from 1967 where the county agreed to lease the spot for the police administrative facility for $1 for a term of 100 years. So we own it, but it is leased until 2067.
So we own the entire building.
Yes, sir.
Could you perhaps forward the maps, picture, and the contract,
Sure, absolutely.
please?
Yep. And that's all I had for today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
A question on what Commissioner Redistricting just said. We own the police department building?
We own the ground underneath it,
own the
and it
ground.
has been leased
It's
for 100 years.
Expo Center type thing where they own the building, we own the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, then I'm mixed up again then. We don't own the building.
Well, I mean, we own the land, and they built the building on our land under the terms of a 100-year lease. So the building doesn't have much value without the land. It's not mobile.
The bottom line is it goes to 2067.
2067, yeah.
So another
Yeah.
40-some years,
Yeah.
45 years.
And that does include the Muni Court.
That's just the police administrative building. So the Muni Court addition is in that old right-of-way of what would have been historically 10th Street. So I don't think we necessarily have a claim on the Muni Court building because that would have been city right-of-way, but the police administrative building is clearly on the county's piece of property.
Thank you.
I can see this getting to be an issue about 35 or 40 years from now.
Not for us.
A real issue.
Could you make that contract available?
I can do better than that. I can send you all a link to it.
All right, thank you.
Well, and thank you for your pictures on the new jail project going on out here too. So those are kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have the the construction team to thank for those. So they provide those for us every month. I think it's going to be a great historical record after this is all done.
And there's a couple of photos in here included in our packet. They're aerial photos. I'm assuming that was compliments of the SO and the drone, possibly.
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I can check, but the construction team might actually have their own drone as well.
Okay. And I've got one more question in regard to rebar.
Yes.
It's not green. And I thought like even KDOT standards nowadays have the coating on it. Just curious if
I will ask.
somebody can answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more comments from the administrator? All right, we'll go to item number 3.
Commissioners' comments?
Comments from the commission? Seeing none, we go to item number 4.
Announcements?
The announcements.
I actually do have one brief announcement this morning. We have been informed by the city of Salina that we have 3 openings for county folks on the Solid Waste Management Committee now. So if any of you know anybody who's interested in solid waste, please encourage them to get an expression of interest form filled out in our office, and we're going to start doing a social media push to try and drum up some interest.
Anyone with, I'll make one short announcement. I was invited to speak to the Equifest board who met Saturday to do a review and a walkthrough of the facilities. I tell you, I've heard people say good things about the employees here at Saline County, but the Equifest could not say enough good things about the way they're treated by the Livestock and Expo Center, but the working relationship they have, and they were very grateful. The words of one of them was that this is the first place they've come to where they really felt welcomed, and that there was a true partnership between both the county and the Equifest. So very encouraging words, and they like what they're seeing over there, and we look forward to seeing them here in a week or 2. Anyone else? No. Well, I would entertain a motion for
So moved.
adjournment.
Second.
We'll move second, we adjourn. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.